I'm Jeremy Volchek, and I'll call myself an SOB, which is a South Omaha boy. Um, from Omaha, I met my wife going to college, and Christina attended Heartland when she was young, and that's kind of what brought me going to church at Heartland, which was definitely a different experience for me because it's things that I was not used to. I have 3 girls. We own a landscaping company in Chapman.
And I'm Loren Green. I've always grown up in this Clark Central City area. I farm in our ranch. Cows are all back there. Met my wife. She was from Clark's as well. She's who is the one that attended Heartland and got me going to church there, which was good for me at the time. I'd stepped away from church during that time in my life. Wasn't going anywhere. And so I started attending Heartland with her. We have 4 boys, ages from 9 all the way down to 1.
So I'll be honest, like I grew up going to church every single Sunday. I grew up going to a private school. I never really read the Bible. So our first time going to Heartland is right before Christy and I got married. And like we walk in, and like, okay, this is like people are shaking hands. We don't really do that at the churches I've been to. Then we start singing and then we start singing some more. And I'm like looking around, looking for like the things I'm used to for church, and it's not happening. And it was like a big pep rally, really. But what made Heartland different is they kept on talking about a relationship with Jesus, and that's not something that I never really heard.
So when we first started attending Heartland, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't. I would say the only thing that I really appreciated about it was Zeke's sermons. Mm-hmm. I could sit there and listen to Zeke and feel like I could get something out of it. But as far as the music, couldn't stand it. As far as watching people during service, maybe hands up in the air during worship, just things like that just annoyed me. Like I was in there basically judging people, and how they were acting in church. We were attending the pack, and they played Jeremy's testimony. For whatever reason, I just knew watching that, there's something about that sounded really, really familiar. And it was very, like what you were saying, like just completely wrapped up. Grew up in church. I grew up in church. Never did have a relationship with Jesus. Never did. You felt good because you went to church and you knew you did the right thing. You checked the box. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyways, yeah, they played Jeremy's testimony. It completely changed my perspective. I mean, it was just a complete eye-awakening moment. I think the one thing that you see at Heartland, and we've witnessed this many times, you see change. You see people change, and that's just something I never saw growing up in church. You never saw somebody, hey, we're gonna have a baptism today for so and so because they gave their life to Christ, and never saw that growing up. And I think that's one of the special things about Heartland is I've seen so many people grow and change, and you see the joy that comes from that within our church, and that's just what makes Heartland just such a special place.
When Jesus is talking to Nicodemus, and Nicodemus is saying, you can't die and be born again? And Jesus is like, no, the old died, the new is here. And that was something that my girl saw, that's something that my wife saw, that's something that my parents saw. Like it's definitely a new beginning for me. And for my girls, like my oldest daughter was baptized in the church last year around this time, and she saw that change in me, so that kind of prompted her. And
I know children ministry in our church is a huge thing too, and but going back to raising our kids in that church, I think that's a great thing too, raising our kids at Heartland. That was one of those moments in my life when I gave my life to Christ. It was an immediate change. I remember talking to Zeke about it. It was just like the light switch came on, and now I understand, about what a relationship is and what it does to a person and how it completely changes your perspective on how you live life. Just going back to how grateful I am for Heartland. If it wasn't for that church and our pastors and what they do, of course, and then hearing a testimony, from a person I didn't even know at the time,
he told me, like, dude, I watched your testimony and it saved me. And it was like, that was amazing to know that what God did to me can help other people. If people watching this video, like, I still have challenges, like I can go to church and I own my own business and I can go right for living for my business and what Jeremy can do for this business and for people. And I'm glorifying Jeremy, I'm not glorifying God. It's a battle every day where I have to preach to myself and get into the Word, because it's so easy to live for Jeremy sometimes. I'm the most excited is two things. One, to anyone that can watch this video, like in the future, and be like, wow, I'm not living that way, and their lives can be changed. Two, like, what I get most excited about, sounds weird, is my daughters getting married at the church and their kids going to that church.
I think, and hopefully see my kids up there on that stage being baptized, I mean, just things like that, just to continue to see the joy that our church brings.
To know, for someone to know, like, if you were to ask me, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are your chances of going to heaven? I would probably, 6 or 7, but I think I'm good enough. Yeah. For someone to listen to this and say, if you put your life in Christ, there is no scale. Like, you are going to heaven.
You're in the butt.
There's nothing more that you can do. And that's the fight right there.
Yeah.
Just to constantly remember, like, there's nothing that we can do to save ourselves. It's been done.
Yeah.
It's done. The debt's been paid.
Yeah.
And for someone to hear that doesn't know that, I mean, that's what Heartland's about.
Yeah.